Well, as you know, this morning, if you, our heart is saddened, just like yours. My heart's saddened. We've lost a friend, but heaven's gained a champion. For you that are new to harvest time, and to those that are listening via the internet, our brother Jimmy was our associate pastor, and he had a stroke a year ago and never recovered from that stroke. And the Lord decided that He wanted him around midnight, Thursday night, early Friday morning. And he's going to be sadly missed by all of us. He was my friend, my co-worker, and he was a member of my church for 30 and a half years. He worked full-time for the church for 25 years. And it's tough when you work every day in the office with somebody and then all of a sudden they're not there. And to be honest with you, it was hard for me to even try to get a message for this morning. Working with the family and trying to keep focused on preaching this morning and then preaching tomorrow. But as I meditated on the Lord, and we won't hold you too long today because we've got to do some arrangements, and the family's going to be here, the body's going to be here between 12 and 1, and the family's going to be at 1, and then you're invited for 2 to 9, and then the church will be open from 8 to 11, and the funeral will be at 11 o'clock tomorrow. As I meditated on the Lord, I asked Him to give me something to preach on. That would have been the characteristic of Brother Jimmy. In other words, I wanted to speak about Brother Jimmy's DNA this morning. So this morning, as you realize, we're preaching this whole year, Unleashing. That's our theme for 2013. Lives are being changed. People are unleashing things in their life. So this morning, I want to entitle my message, Unleashing Our Encouragement. If you knew Brother Jimmy at all, if you just met him one day, if you knew him at all, then you knew that he was an encourager. That was his gift. That was Brother Jimmy's gift. We do one of these gift things periodically in the office. And Brother Jim and I used to laugh all the time about my gifts and his gifts. Nobody ever cared to counsel with me. I remember a woman one time was having marital problems, and I tried to help her, and she walked in my office one day, and she just walked in the office. She said, "That's it, I'm tired of them, I'm getting a divorce." And I handed her a card for an attorney. I said, "Well, go find an attorney." I'm not. Now, honestly. We take these gift tests. And I always come out around 98% in administration and 3 to 4% in mercy. Don't look at me. Some of you ain't merciful either. I've dealt with you, I know. He'd always have about 98% mercy and about 4% administration. That's why we worked so good together. That's why his office was full of people for hours and hours and hours. And I am glad he had that gift and not me, because I wouldn't want to be in my office for hours and hours and hours listening to people's problems. I'm just being honest and transparent with you, okay? That you're talking about draining. That's draining. And so he had that gift. There is no telling how many people in this world, both in this church and other churches, that he has encouraged during their times of hardship. Only heaven knows the multitude of people. He encouraged many pastors and their church leaders. This is an example of one pastor and his wife, that he has touched the lives of their church, them themselves and their leaders. I've had many pastors tell me how Brother Jimmy impacted their life, their leadership, their church, and how he would encourage them in the Lord. He's probably in heaven right now encouraging the angels. And the angels are probably telling them, now, Reverend Richard, we really don't need that up here. We don't get discouraged up here. You know, I realize you just got up here, you're brand new, but your job's finished. Brother Jimmy knew how to shasha people. I mean that. He had that nick. He had that gift. He could put his arms around you and just love on you and shasha you. He had that special touch of mercy and encouragement. So, Brother Jimmy, if you can hear this message is in honor of you. Someone said, flatter me, and I may not believe you. Criticize me, and I may not like you. Hurt me, and I may not forgive you. But encourage me, and I will not forget you. Would you agree with me that every one of us today are candidates for encouragement? You can act holy if you want to and say you never get discouraged, but I know you're not telling the truth. I don't care how many flags you wave. The fact of the matter is, every one of us that are sitting here today or standing, every one of us is going through a time in our life, and some of you are probably going through a time in your life right now where you're just in a state of discouragement. Now, not only are we candidates for encouragement, but we are carriers of encouragement. Did you get that? We're not only candidates of somebody encouraging us, but we are carriers of encouraging others. Encouragement. It's the act of giving hope or support. It means to come alongside of, to uplift, to edify. Believe it or not, as I was studying, the root word of encouragement comes from the same word as comforter that Jesus was using to speak about the Holy Ghost. He said, I got to leave, but I'm sending you a comforter. And when you look into this word comforter and get into the Greek word and the root word, it means the same thing as an encourager. So we can actually say that an encourager is a comforter. We can never take the place of the Holy Spirit because we're only human. but we can encourage or comfort other people. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. I don't believe that's a suggestion. I don't believe it's you could do this. It says encourage one another and build each other up. You know what that means? That means I'm supposed to encourage you. That means you're supposed to encourage me. That means you're supposed to encourage the person that's sitting on the side of you or in the back of you or in the front of you. Verse 14 in 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says this, encourage the timid. And all through the Bible, we read and we see where leaders encouraged others. Deuteronomy 31:6, when Moses said, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Moses had a way of encouraging the people. Hezekiah encouraged the Levites. Josiah encouraged the priests. Barnabas encouraged Paul. Paul encouraged the people. And I hope to encourage you this morning. Hebrews 3:13. It says, be encouraged, but encourage one another daily. Whoa. What do you mean, encourage one another daily? That means every day in our life, as God's representatives, we, my dear friend, should be encouraging somebody. I'm talking about unleashing the encouragement that's on the inside of you. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if, it's a small little big word, wouldn't it be great if instead of criticizing people, we would encourage them? Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be great if we would never say anything negative about someone? You say, now, Pastor, get real. I am. You cannot encourage anybody when you start talking negative about anybody. Now, is the book right or not? Is the word right or not? Does the word say encourage one another daily? Does the word tell us to unleash our encouragement to one another daily? Does it say daily? Does it tell us to do that? Does it commands us to encourage one another? But yet, we're experts on criticizing. We're experts on talking about negative things with others. Wouldn't it be great if we, instead of putting others down, we would build them up? Listen, friend, the only reason that you put people down is because you are insecure. You don't know who you are. You've lost your identity. That's why so many preachers talk about so many other churches and so many other pastors, because they're insecure. They don't know who they are. You ought to know who you are. You're a royal priesthood, a chosen nation. You're a child of God. You don't have to look at others and condemn others and talk negative about others and criticize others and put others down. You don't have to do that. What you need to do, friend, is unleash that encouragement on the inside of you and start building other people up. Church, we need to unleash our encourager. We need to lift one another up. We need to comfort one another. And every one of us today can be an encourager to somebody else. You say, oh, not me, Pastor. You know, that's not my cup of tea. We'll change different kind of flavors. Hello? Don't you talk? What you mean you can't do it? The Bible tells us to do it. You believe in the healing scripture, right? You believe in the blessing scriptures, right? Then you must believe in this, to encourage one another daily. Now, I want to talk just for a few minutes about 4 ways we can encourage one another. There are a lot of ways we can encourage one another, but I want to talk about 4 ways. And while I was working on this, I was thinking of Brother Jimmy, and these are very practical, elementary points, nuggets, whatever you want to call them. And I believe they represent Brother Jimmy. Number 1, how do we encourage one another? Pastor, how do we unleash our encouragement that's stored up on the inside of you? Pastor, I'm guilty of criticizing. Pastor, I'm guilty of putting people down. I'm guilty of condemning people. I'm guilty of judging people. I'm guilty of talking negative things about people. I trust this morning that your life will be so challenged that you will refuse to start criticizing and judging and putting down people and talking negative, that you will refuse to do it. And when you walk out of here, you'll have a commitment. I'm going to start encouraging people. Instead of putting them down, I'm going to start encouraging. 4 ways I want to talk about this morning. Number 1, by our verbal words. Isn't that elementary? Isn't that simple? Even though I'm so highly educated. Me and Hannah, neither one of us has ever made a B in high school. Hannah, you didn't know this, baby, but I was on the principal's list all through my high school years. Boy, was I on his list. My wife and I graduated together 15 years later. My principal became the superintendent of Plaquemine Parish. 15 years later, her and I went to graduation. He was on the stage. We walked in just a touch late. We walked through the back door of that big auditorium. He saw me walking down, got in the auditorium. He got off the platform and went back there and hugged me. He said, "Robert Wells." I was on the principal's list. And he looked at my wife and he said, "Oh, is this your wife?" Didn't have the foggiest idea she ever graduated from the same school. Because she wasn't on the principal's list. I was. So never made a B. When you leave this place, encourage somebody. My pastor's never made a B in high school, and he was on the principal list all 4 years of high school. By our verbal words. This is one of the most common ways that we encourage one another. Proverbs 25:11 out of the Message translation. It says the right word, listen to this, the right word at the right time is like a custom-made piece of jewelry. Can I hear it from you ladies? There ain't nothing like a custom-made piece of jewelry. You don't get that at 5 and 10 dime store. Proverbs 15:11, how delightful is a timely word. I read the story about the great home run hitter Babe Ruth. It was in 1935 when he was playing ball for the Boston Braves. They were playing a game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. in this game, famous home run hitter Babe Ruth struck out 3 times. As he walked off the field, in the grandstands, everybody booed him. And a man went to Babe Ruth's hotel that night, phoned his room, and said, "Babe, I'm an autograph collector. I want to know if I could get your autograph. I've got your picture, just want to know if you would autograph it for me." Babe Ruth said, "Are you sure you want my autograph after I let all the fans down?" The man said, "Yeah, I still want it." So Babe told him what room he was in. The man said when he walked into the room, he saw Babe Ruth wearing an old blue robe, lying on the davenport, looking like a whipped puppy. Babe Ruth signed his autograph on the picture, and he said to the man, "I feel terrible. Not only did the crowd boo me, but someone even spit on me." He said they were looking for me to hit a home run, and the only thing I did was strike out 3 times. The man looked at Babe Ruth and he said, "Forget today. Tomorrow's another day. I have enough confidence in you to predict that tomorrow you'll be the hero of the game." The guy could have said, "Yeah, babe, you really stunk today." But he said, "Forget today. Forget today. Tomorrow's another day. I've got enough confidence in you, babe, that I'm predicting that tomorrow you're going to be the hero of the game." Babe Ruth's countenance changed immediately. The next day in the game, Babe Ruth hit 3 home runs. The second home run was the only ball ever hit over the right field grandstand at Forbes Field. The 3 homers, numbers 712, 713, and 714, turned out to be the last home runners in Babe's career, because 8 days later he retired from playing ball. He was inspired, he was encouraged by someone that gave him, that he did not even know, a complete stranger gave him words of encouragement. And Babe Ruth did not walk on the field like a whipped puppy, but he walked on the field because somebody inspired him, encouraged him that today you can be a hero. Words of encouragement can change the life of a person. You, my dear friend, can help someone to hit a home run. They just need someone. It can be a complete stranger, but they need someone to encourage them. Unleash it. Church, do you hear me? Unleash it. Unleash it. Unleash it. Look at somebody and say, "Unleash it." You've got it on the inside of you, sir. Unleash it, because somebody needs to hear a word that's going to help them hit the next home run. Proverbs 16:24 says, "Pleasant words or encouraging words or comforting words brings healing to the bones." Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Let's make sure that our tongue brings life and not death to someone. People needs affirmation. I remember a story I read about the banker telling about this story. Every day before he would get to his bank on the busy street, there would be a man there that didn't have any legs, and he would be sitting on the sidewalk with his little tin jar, begging for money. And every time somebody would pass, he would rattle that little tin jar with a few change in it. And every day that banker would put something in that little tin jar. And when somebody would give the beggar some money, the beggar would always give him a cheap pencil. And so every day that banker would put money in that little jar, and that beggar would take that cheap old pencil and give it to him. And that banker, a complete stranger, would look at him and say, "You could be a merchant. You could be a merchant." Them words rang in that little beggar's life the whole time that he stayed there. And then one morning the banker came and there was no beggar there. And the banker came the next day and there was no beggar. And the next day and there was no beggar. And so the banker thought evidently the beggar had passed away. A long time later, the banker was in a busy shopping place. And he saw a little merchant over there selling pencils. And he went and he realized who the merchant was, who the owner of the business was. And it was that legless beggar. And the beggar saw the banker and realized it and looked at the banker. He said, "Sir," he said, "you are the reason that I own a business today. Because you spoke into my life and you said that I could be a merchant. So instead of begging, I started selling my pencils. And now I have my own business." One little word, 3 little words, 10 little words can change the life of your neighbor, can change the life of some wino, can change the life of some dope addict, can change the life of some homosexual, can change the life of your neighbor and your friend. Just a few little words is on the inside of you, but you gotta let it out. You will be surprised at the life you can help change just by encouraging words. Your wife or husband needs to hear some encouraging words. They're tired of being nagged all the time. Thank you for that. Oh. I got to repeat that. You was too quiet on that one. I hit somebody's button there. Instead of nagging them all the time, your wife or husband needs to hear some encouraging words. It would be all right, sir, if you would look at her and say, "You're beautiful today." Ain't nothing wrong with that. That was free. Your children needs to hear some encouraging words. Let me just meddle just right here. When one child brings home a C, won't you look at that child and say, "Why ain't you like your brother and bring home all A's?" He might not be an A person. They don't need to hear the word, "You're dumb, you're stupid, you're a mistake." Your children needs to hear some encouraging word. It will help them focus on the future. Your co-workers need to hear some encouraging words. Wherever you go to church at, your church leaders need to hear some encouraging words. They're out there. They need you. Speak to them. Number two, and I'm closing real quick, not only by our verbal words, but by our written words. A postcard of encouragement can be priceless. Doesn't need to be long. It can be just a few words that, like, I care, I'm praying, I'm thinking of you. Just a note can be so encouraging. During some of my lowest times in the ministry, I've received a note or a text or a letter, someone writing me without knowing that I was struggling. One of my most emotional, lowest times when I was diagnosed with cancer was when I received a letter from one of my dear church members that I still cherish today. This lady didn't know what she was saying to me, but God did. Doesn't hardly cost you anything to write a note. I know this is so simple, but it's good. Take time out. Unleash your encourager. There are people that needs to hear from you. There's people that needs a postcard from you. There's people that need just a little thank you. Number three. Complete something said. Number three. By our verbal words, by our written words, by our presence. You'd be surprised what it means to someone when someone is going through their darkest hours for you to stand there, to be with them. Just a hospital visit. Boy, hospitals are so lonely. They're not lonely at night. And excuse me for saying this, nurses. They come in every hour on the hour at night. They're not lonely at night. You got somebody to talk to at night. During the day, it's lonely. I know you got to do that, supposedly. I think it's harassment, actually. Being there like this afternoon and tomorrow as we gather to comfort the Richard family. You know, even when we don't know what to say, our presence speaks volumes of words. Last but not least, by our verbal words, by written words, by our presence. The last one is by our touch. Just a needed, encouraging hug can be worth $1 million. Seriously, I'm serious. If I'm down in the dumps and discouraged, going through the worst time of my life, and feel like throwing in the towel, and you came to me and you said, Pastor, would you like an encouraging hug or $1 million? I would say to you, give me $1 million. I can always hug myself. Yes, sir. Forget about the hug. Show me the money. It's just a thought. In closing today, I want to challenge you with something. Here's what I want to challenge you with. Do I have everybody's attention? I want to challenge you with something. Are you ready? Before next Sunday, I want you to purposely encourage 5 people. It could be church people, family. Some of you ain't encouraged your spouse in decades. Boy, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if you just sat down with your children, just looked at them and said, I'm proud of you? Never had that in my life. Out of all of my ministry years, all the building programs I've ever been in, all the mission trips I've ever taken, my dad was 90 years old before he ever looked at me and said, son, I'm proud of you. It hurts. Every day, your children is looking for an affirmation from you. So why don't you let one of them 5 be your children? Why don't you let one of them 5 be your co-worker? Why don't you let one of them 5 be your boss on the job? Pastor, he's a jerk. Encourage the jerk. A few words of encouragement. He may not be a jerk anymore. You can change his life. Maybe that's all he hears is criticism. He never hears anybody say anything good. Just a word of encouragement can change somebody's life. Would you stand?
Thank you for joining us online today. We hope you enjoyed today's service. You can watch us live online every Sunday at 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. For more information or to contact us, visit us at harvesttime.co.